Boys, welcome back. In this guide, I'm going to show you how you can build a wide aesthetic frame even with bad genetics. And this was me. I always had a problem with my body. I was a skinny kid in class. I was a skinny kid everywhere. You can see here, I had very narrow clavicle bones and just a terrible physique overall, terrible frame. And then I transformed into this V-taper aesthetic specimen. And I had pretty shit genetics. And I'm going to show you how you can do it if you have shit genetics as well, okay? But first we have to understand why frame is king for respect and attraction. You can see right here, just from this picture alone, the guy on the left is getting absolutely mogged, okay? A wider frame signals more power and masculine polarization, and this is so important in the real world because that's how we're going to get respect and it's how we're going to get attraction. And as well, you'll notice that the physique on the right simply stands out more, and for some reason, when you have a bigger frame, a broader frame, wider shoulders, you seem to need less muscle to look big. Like this guy right here on the right, he does not have as much muscle as the guy on the left, but he looks bigger, and that's simply because he's taking up a lot of space, okay? So wide frame has a massive benefits in the dating world as well, okay? Like I said, you're going to stand out more, okay? And specifically if you're going out into the nightlife, stuff like this, you will just stand out more in night environments. You will be more polarizing. You will be more attractive, okay? And from a dating perspective as well, women are hardwired to feel more protected. If you are a bigger person, if you have a dominant imposing frame, you are more masculine. You can see here, this is the optimal thing we're going for. We need to be wider than your girl. Why would we don't want to be like thinner than a girl, okay? So this is just going to make her subconsciously feel more protected, and you're obviously going to get more attraction because of this, okay? And in the real world, even the higher power figures are literally trying to make their frames look more supreme and imposing. Like presidential suits are made to look boxy and oversized to make the presidents look bigger because they are aware that having a broader frame exerts power and shows status, okay? Now, when we're going to build our frame, we need to take into consideration a few things. Now, the first thing, which is going to be the most actionable step that we can take, is the muscular approach, okay? If you're familiar with this channel, you know we're talking about building a good physique. And to build our frame, to get aesthetic, even with shit genetics, we have to focus on the two influential muscle groups that aid in creating a frame. We have number one, the latissimus dorsi, which is the lats, so it's this wing-like muscle on your back, and then we have the deltoids. Now, obviously there are three heads to the deltoid, but we want to focus on the lateral deltoid, which is often known as the side delt, or the lateral delt. And that is targeted by humeral abduction. So any movement where we're raising our arm away from our body is going to target the lateral deltoid. Why this is so important is because if we can add muscle to this area, we can actually increase the side projection of our shoulder, making us look wider. And with the lats, we can actually make ourselves have more of a V-taper and look more aesthetic and look more wide, and it will sort of push our frame and make us look more imposing in shirts everywhere, okay? Now, to get giga strong at weighted pull-ups, this is the number one thing that you can do. This is the number one thing that I did to build my frame even with shit genetics, okay? Pull-ups are one of the most overlooked exercises inside of the gym, and honestly, if you want to have a good frame, if you're complaining about not having a good frame and you're not doing pull-ups right now, then you're a fucking idiot, okay? You need to stop treating it like a warm-up exercise or just another random exercise in your back routine, okay? And it's once I stopped treating it like a random ass exercise and I actually prioritized it and I actually treated it like a key compound lift, which it absolutely is, that's when my back blew up. That's when I was able to build a good frame, okay? I did it 2 times per week at the start of my workout. So if you're doing a back day right now, instead of doing a row, instead of doing even a lat pull down, stop spamming that shit. Get onto the weighted pull-ups and a low volume approach and your back will explode. And mark my words, if you can get a 5-rep set of pull-ups with at least 2 plates, then you will not be small. I do not care what shit genetics, what small clavicle, what small frame you have. If you can do 2 plates on a pull-up for 5 reps, you will have a big back. This is exactly the case that happened to me, and that's why I champion it so much in every single thing I talk about when I'm talking about building frame and building an aesthetic physique. You need to do weighted pull-ups. They will literally cancel out any shit genetics you have if you get strong at them. The next thing we're going to do to optimize our frame is 2 side delt max, okay? Now, the top 2 exercises, like I said, we want to focus on the lateral delts to build that projection out to the side, are standing dumbbell lateral raises and leaning single arm lateral raises on the cable, okay? Now, why 2 exercises here? Because we aren't going to cope like most people, and we are actually going to go heavy on one of them, okay? Most people go into the gym and they complain about having small shoulders, and they're actually not even training them like a fucking muscle. They're training them like it's some endurance fucking sport, doing sets of 30 reps, doing just 2 kilo, 5 kilo dumbbells. You see it all the time. Guys go in there, they swing the weights. They're just doing bullshit. Okay, we need to treat it like any other muscle. If we were trying to grow our chest, we'd want to be getting stronger on the bench press. Okay, treat standing dumbbell lateral raises as a primary lift. Okay, get stronger. Especially if you're natural, you need to be doing everything in your power to get stronger over time. So start going heavy and stop training like a pussy, okay? Now, another honorable mention for recruiting the side delts is the chest supported forward leaning row. So you can do this on a bench. You set it up and you put your chest and you raise in front of you. But if you want to go for straight heavy weight, do standing dumbbell lateral raises, and you can swing a little bit. It is okay? And the protocol that I would use is heavy standing dumbbell raises with swinging a little bit is fine. Like I said, if you're fatiguing, your form will break down, okay? The goal of this is to train to pretty much failure. We're going to do in a session 2 to 3 sets of 6 to 10 reps. None of this 20 plus bullshit, okay? You may get a pump in your shoulders when you do this, but you're not causing hypertrophy. You're not giving your muscles enough stimulus to actually grow, because most guys are going to be stuck on the same 5 kilo dumbbells for 4 years in a row, okay? It's so bullshit. Then what you're going to do is to get a pump. You're going to follow it up with lighter cable raises. And I like to do the single cable raise myself just because it allows for a lot of contraction and a lot of mind-muscle connection. But the whole thing is we need to be doing 2 exercises and we need to be training it frequently. You can train shoulders, you can train side delts specifically 2 to 3 times a week with no recovery problems at all because they are smaller muscles. But that doesn't mean you don't want to go heavy, okay? So if you can get a heavy lateral raise, like I'm up to lateral raising the 20 kilo dumbbells now with decent form, and it's when I did this that my shoulders actually started blowing up and getting bigger, okay? Now, the other thing that we can do, which is a massive influence on building our frame, even with whatever genetics you have, is simply to understand that lean is law, okay? You can compare these 2 pictures right here. The difference that you cut with a V-taper is crazy. It's not just about building muscle in the shoulders and in the lat area, it's also about shrinking our waist, okay? Because a lower body fat percentage or being lean allows for less fat around the stomach, so you can achieve more of this cut in and sharper V-taper, okay? So you can see here, this wide blocky waist makes it look like I'm not as wide as I actually am, but when I've cut down and gained more muscle on top, the V is more prominent, the V-taper is more evident, okay? And this simply just helped me create an illusion of a bigger frame. Because like I said, I never truly had a massive frame. I just did these things to help build it and make the illusion of having a bigger frame, okay? Now, low body fat percentage will also help to make your frame look more prominent because there's going to be more separation in the shoulders, and that's going to make them seem more developed, okay? If you have like real like fatty looking shoulders, there's no true shape, okay? The real aesthetic and the real V-taper illusion comes from when you have the cap delt, and getting lean is going to cause that cap. It's going to cause that separation between the top of the arm, the bicep area, and the side delt, and when it kind of curls out like a dome, right? And as well, you're just going to get vascularity as well if you're leaner, which is obviously a benefit as well, okay? Now, one thing that I don't hear many guys talk about, okay, we obviously know now what we're going to train, how to train, but a lot of guys don't talk about the physiological adaptations that you can take and you can do to improve your frame over time. Because the reality of it is, bro, it might not be over for you. You might be looking in the mirror right now and think that you have a small frame, small clavicles, shit physique, but it might not be over, okay? And you can see here the development of my physique over time from year 1, year 3, and year 4, 5 plus. My frame looked really frail and I had no development in muscles, and my whole like chest radius just looked really, really small. But as time goes on, the whole area sort of spans out and gets bigger, and that is simply because I grew into my frame, and chances are you can grow into your frame and actually unlock your genetic potential as well, okay? Now, heaps of this, I'm not going to lie, is based on genetics, okay? Some people might actually genuinely be cooked from genetics, but I'm not here to cope on this channel. I'm here to actually give you real advice to help you fix your life and improve yourself as a young guy, okay? Now, how do we actually overcome this potential genetic limitation and get a frame that's bigger? Well, we can aid this by trying to optimize our hormones and our masculinization, okay? Now, especially if you're younger, this is a picture of me in school right now. Like we're looking at, I had no frame, no muscle, no nothing. And I looked scrawny, I looked skinny as fuck. But then you compare that to here, well, how do I all of a sudden have a frame? Well, it was simply because I leveraged masculinization over time and through optimizing my inputs, okay? Now, skinny guys especially will benefit from this, because if you're skinny right now, if you're started out in a shit position, you think you have shit genetics, but realistically, you are so malnourished, so underfed, so non-optimized that when you get optimized and when you actually start eating, when you go to the gym and when you do positive habits, well, you never really had shit genetics in the first place. You just were starving yourself of nutrients that you needed to grow properly, okay? And this is why I advise guys who are younger to never be in a crazy deficit, never be in a crazy cut if you're going to the gym, because we need all the optimal hormone function and the masculinization effects to expand our frame and grow as big as possible. It's the whole thing you've heard about getting as tall as possible by making sure you're eating, okay? If you're young and you're not eating well and you're eating shit and you're eating in a deficit, when you are in your prime years for getting taller, then you're not going to reach your full height potential in most cases, okay? Maybe that's a bit of bro science, but you'd still benefit from eating more and being optimally fed. Same goes for your frame and your overall bone development, okay? Now, optimizing our inputs, like I said, is very, very important, okay? The things I do specifically relate to diet. You don't want to be eating bullshit. You want to be eating whole food, nutrient-dense foods, which are actually going to help fuel your growth, especially if you're a younger guy, okay? So start increasing dietary cholesterol intake, because this is going to improve your testosterone production and your hormone regulation, meaning you're going to be able to have more masculinization. You're going to get, like, you're going to grow up better, basically. You're not going to grow into a fucking soy boy. And the more masculine you can be means likely you're going to have a bigger frame and you're going to look more aesthetic, okay? So whole foods consisting of good amounts of animal fats. You can see here we've got steak, milk, we've got eggs, we've got beef, all that good stuff that's actually going to contain all the shit we need to grow. And as well, we're going to be focusing on dairy to promote bone density, okay? Vitamin D and calcium consumption is very, very important for our bone density and for our growth, especially in these pubescent years. During puberty, this is when we're going to grow the most. So you don't want to be starving yourself, eating fucking KFC, then you'll look like a soy boy and you'll be complaining about a small frame, okay? And it's once I did this, and like I said, stop being in a deficit if you're young. It's once I did this, I was able to actually realize my true potential and realize, oh fuck, I actually do have a decent frame, especially with some muscle added and my hormones optimized, okay? Now, obviously, we know that if you improve your testosterone and you build muscle, you will increase your masculine health markers. Therefore, testosterone goes up, etc. This will also increase your androgen receptor sensitivity as well. And this is why enhanced guys that are on testosterone, have massive shoulders, okay? Because the androgens are more concentrated in the shoulders, traps in the upper chest region. That's why guys, when they get on steroids, they blow the fuck up in these areas. So if we can leverage this naturally and we can get more testosterone and more androgenic effects, our shoulders are going to grow. And guess what? Shoulders are a key component of building our frame, okay? So with that being said, that is how we are going to build the frame. Even with shit genetics, that is how I was able to transform from scrawny to having an aesthetic V-taper frame. It is simple. We need to focus on the muscular and the physiological factors that influence how we look and how wide we can get, okay? And it takes time. It does take time. But if you want help, if you want specific advice, and you want to join a community with like-minded guys who are doing the same thing, who are optimizing their life for the better, building the physique that gets some attraction and attention in the real world, click the link in the description, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.